knew exactly what she needed to do, but then didn't do it. And this isn't a laziness problem, not at all. It's not even a confidence problem. It's a decisiveness gap. And it's one of the most common things that I see in high performers and those seeking excellence. So she runs two businesses. One's got real momentum at the moment, and the other was a little flat in February, but it's pretty good too. But she knows her team are underperforming. There's little things like the administrative jobs are not being done, their social media responsibilities is not being executed, and little standards are starting to slip. So she's had the conversation, sort of. She's had the conversation with them, but she's softened it a little bit. She is being a little bit nice to them. She's paying them above what they deserve to be paid, using my judgment. And it's all in an effort to keep the peace, to keep good relations, to keep them on side. And she knows what needs to be said, really. But she waits and she worries and then softens the language again. And then sometimes it swings the other way. She's simple, clear, decisive. She gets things moving and then back to stuck when her mind for a week or so is foggy and busy and then it's brilliant for a fraction of a second and then blocked again. And her mind basically alternates between clarity and fogginess. From the outside, it looks very inconsistent. And from the inside, for her, it feels exhausting and her business isn't developing as quickly as it should be because of this. And this is the decisiveness gap. It's not about knowing what to do, because she knows, right? It's about the ability to act on what you consciously know to be correct, to do it consistently, even when it feels uncomfortable, without the other versions of you getting in the way. So when we peel back the layers, what we find is that worst case thinking is making all her decisions for her. Every thought is running through this kind of filter. What's the worst that could happen? Well, maybe an employee leaves, maybe the team grow to resent her, maybe the person in question might get upset, maybe that's the knock on to her business. It's all through this lens of worst case scenario. So because of that, she softens the feedback. Her internal narrative is softening the feedback, and she pays them a bit too much, and she delays the hard call. All very understandable when you're coming from a place of fear, but it feels like being thoughtful. It feels like being a good person, but it's actually anxiety in this costume of leadership. It's not real leadership. So she's using this feeling of like being nice as a way of protecting herself. Like she told me this one story where she was out for coffee with another business owner and a barista who served them, who was actually being like the business owner was at their own facility where they were prepping this coffee. And she saw this person, like they basically received a coffee and hers was like piping hot, like way too hot. And the other business owner came in, immediately gave feedback that was quite intense or quite to the point. It wasn't intense, it was to the point to the barista. They were the employees, the barista was the employees, or sorry, let me start that again. The barista was the employee of the other business owner. And it was in front of my client. And immediately she felt bad for that barista. She found herself going, oh, wow, that's very intense. But that moment revealed a lot. Her discomfort with these very direct and explicit standards is not about being kind to others. It's about avoiding her discomfort. So every time that she has that time where she could give negative direct feedback, she doesn't, because it's about being nice. She said it herself even, I don't want to be too decisive and then not be kind. There's the fear of if I'm decisive about this, then I'm not being kind. So being nice, it feels virtuous. It feels like the right thing to do. But in the long run, it's holding these people back. It's hurting them. It's making them avoid accountability and put everything, all the responsibility of running the business back on her rather than her team having tasks delegated to her correctly. So to be kind, you sometimes have to make people uncomfortable. Those things aren't opposites. And in fact, when I'm coaching people, I want you to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Just like in a personal training session or strength session or speaking to your accountant, you're learning the truth. This is uncomfortable. We want you to grow. And the third thing that we notice is that her identity switches and swings with a little bit of momentum. So when business is picking up, she feels like a solid, decisive, intentional leader. And when business is flat, which is inevitable at times, she loses her sense of her. She loses her intentionality. She gets foggy and she gets distracted and she starts second guessing herself. So this external environment is running her internal state. And that decisiveness isn't gone. It's not gone anywhere. It's just conditional. And conditional decisiveness isn't a skill yet. It's a mood. And part of developing your mental fitness is developing new skills, being able to deploy them in more challenging environments. So there's the version of you that shows up when things are going well. What I want you to remember is that's not a different you. That's you. That's the real you. The work is making that person always available, regardless of what the current moment demands and regardless of what the current moment is bringing up in you. So what we did is we started by naming this pattern. You'll notice this thing. Like I constantly am helping people call out their patterns and name them explicitly. This swing between really effective and just really not effective, really ineffective. And we asked, what does that decisive version of you actually do differently? And we used the moment she observed when she was watching that other business owner correct the barista that was the employee. It was direct and it was immediate. There was no drama. There was no overly stressed, and she respected it instantly. She also felt very uncomfortable watching it. And that discomfort is the data. That's exactly the stimulus that we need to get a little bit more of. So we introduced this barbell analogy that I know I've spoken to you about before, but it's worth repeating. And it's worth repeating because it's the thing that actually creates change. So imagine you've got that heavy barbell on your back. It's uncomfortable, it's stressful, and everything in your body wants to put it down. But if you've been training for a while, you don't. You hold form, you push through the reps, and when things get stressful, you still finish them. You go after the stimulus, you go after the difficulty. And giving uncomfortable feedback to employees, it feels not the same, but there's discomfort there, there's stress. And the discomfort is the stimulus that you want that is going to force you to grow. That stress is what creates the adaptation for you to grow. So what we need to do is, and what we did with her, is we set one very specific repetition. We found one piece of uncomfortable feedback that she could give to her team, all kind, obviously, all with the intention of helping them grow, but it's uncomfortable for her to give it. And not this big performance review, not a really difficult conversation, but one thing, daily, a small load, and just to put in the consistent reps. And we added 5 minutes of daily stillness too. This opportunity to down-regulate and to become still, because so often we get caught up in old patterns when we don't stabilize, don't still ourselves. The fog that seems to accumulate with her seems to accumulate because she never stills. It's like there's loads of Zen parables, and one of them is that your mind is like a muddy puddle or a muddy pond. If you get in there and try and push the mud aside, it just disturbs it. But if you allow it to still and settle, you'll find that clarity as the mud filters to the bottom, the clean water rises to the top. It's exactly the same here. So decisiveness, there's personality associated with it. Some people will be naturally less agreeable on the Big Five personality scale, which makes this kind of decisiveness, this tough feedback, like easier to give. But it's not a personality trait in itself. The ability to give feedback isn't a personality trait. It's a skill. And like any skill, it needs progressive overload. It needs training. So starting light, adding load, adding intensity, and building the mental muscle in this case. So for you listening, what I want you to remember here, the key principle, is that high performers, yourself included, you're not struggling because you don't know what to do. You don't act in a non-decisive way because you don't know what to do. You struggle because you don't know what requires tolerating discomfort, and you haven't trained that muscle yet. So the gap between knowing and doing is almost always an emotional gap. It's not an information gap. And you already do this physically. You already go to the gym. You don't stop a heavy set because it's uncomfortable. You don't hold off your run intensity because it's uncomfortable. You maintain the standards. Mental fitness works in exactly the same way. The rep is the discomfort. The adaptation is decisiveness. And here's the thing. The less you want to give feedback, the more important it is that you probably do it. Your hesitation isn't this signal to wait. It's a signal to go. And once you flip that emotional cue from becoming something that encourages you to step away from intensity and then become something that encourages you to go towards, that's when you win. So the most important conversations in your business are the ones that you keep on putting off, not because you don't know what to say, but because it feels heavy. And that heaviness is the weight on the bar, and you need to learn to pick it up. So today, choose one piece of uncomfortable feedback you're sitting on, a standard that's slipping, something you've noticed as it's a standard that you've let slip, a conversation that you've had 3 times, but you haven't really had the teeth behind it. Then today, say it directly, without the disclaimer, without the cushion, without the hesitation, not to be hard on this person, not to practice being a dick, but to be useful, to help your team standard grow, to move them towards excellence. That's your rep. If you do it daily, every single day, obviously, but if you do it daily for a week, watch what happens to your confidence. Watch what happens to your ability, and that is just going to reflect in the standard around you. The decisive version of you, the best version of you, is not waiting for a better month. It's waiting for you to pick up that load and develop the skill set to handle it.